up, dudes? It's Gaz, and welcome back to the WARFRAME video. So today we're covering my main amp setup for level 10,000 Void Cascade, Void Angels, and things like that. They don't really add new amp parts to WARFRAME very often, so I think this amp I'm using today will be the main one I'm using for a long time. So let's get right into it. But before we do, make sure you sub this channel. We do daily WARFRAME video uploads. Also, I'll be live on stream tonight, grinding out probably a bunch of relics. Honestly, I'm in a relic mood tonight, so probably doing a bunch of fissures tonight for borrowed next week, I suppose. So come on, stop by if you want to. Alright, so yeah, this video will be covering a lot of amp stuff. I'm actually going to make it where it's hopefully as easy to understand as possible. So, going over what an amp is in WARFRAME. If you've beaten a bunch of the story quests, you have access to the operator. And the amp is basically the weapon of the operator. The one I'm using right now is a lot of people call it the 147, but as far as the part's name, it's called the Replock Prism. So we have a sniper shot, primary shot. We've got the Certus Brace, which means it will influence our stats of our attacks. So the Certus Brace is the maximum crit chance and crit damage option that is available, and it is coming from Fortuna, the Vox Solaris. We also got the Pod Scaffold. This makes our alt fire basically a glaive launcher a little bit. It will bounce around, ricochet between enemies, and can deal some really good damage. And it does a lot of work on its own. So it bounces back and forth quite a few times. That will be great for taking out enemies at normal levels, and actually at high levels too. So here's some thrax enemies, the main enemies we are using this amp for. And the reason for that is because the thrax, once they are destroyed in their normal body, let's just go ahead and take this guy out. You will see that this enemy becomes a ghost. This ghost is immune to normal damage. We have to use operator damage to actually damage this enemy. So I'm just going to go ahead and kill a couple more of them. They're physical bodies, so we can see how this works. So, okay, we've got a couple ghosts here. Now, this amp will deal big damage if we do things properly, if we do all the things I show in the video today. So, these guys are unable to be damaged by normal damage. We throw out a Matarai ability called Contamination Wave. We can actually use that a lot to get big damage. So 3 million damage with our amp. Now, if we use the glaive launcher, you'll see it bounces around between enemies, but if it actually does seek this enemy out, it will do good damage as well. So, big damage there. It hits multiple times as well. So, at level 10,000, that can take out a big group of thrax very easily. So, we're just take all these enemies out. You will see the glaive bounces between them quite nicely. Okay, the Cycron's not really taking them out as quickly as I wanted it to. So, get a couple ghosts here. Now, at level 10,000, this actually can happen, having multiple high-level ghosts next to each other. So, this is where the glaive launcher can come in, activate the Void Strike, and all those ghosts are going to be dead no matter what. So, the 147 is what is viewed as, I call it Replock, Pod, and Certus, and that's pretty much the easiest way for me to remember it, because people ask about it all the time. It's really good. Additionally, you can get some headshots on these guys to kill them in one bullet. That will work at level 10,000 as well. Using the Matarai abilities and all that will show you, will give you a big chunk of extra. So 7.7 million on that guy, a body shot for 600,000. So yeah, we'll show some Steel Path gameplay in here, but let's actually go over every little item I am using here. And unfortunately, I can't show it to you in the sim. I have to show you this clip I recorded earlier. So going over all the amp stuff we're using here for level 10,000 Void Cascade. Reminder, I do have a Void Cascade advanced guide from 2 months ago if you want to go watch that. Go over everything in detail, but this is just the amp today I'm using in this stuff. So, for amp arcanes, we got Eternal Onslaught. So, on energy fully depleted of the operator, increase crit chance for 8 seconds. I'm going to give you some extremely detailed tips and tricks today, okay? So, for this, you can either use Void Strike from Matarai to fully drain your energy in one cast, or you can use Contamination Wave. I think it's 4 or 5 times. Contamination Wave drains a chunk of your energy bar per cast. Once you fully drain the entire energy bar, you'll get a big crit chance buff. That's how you get to those orange crits I was just showing you, and that's how you can easily one-shot high-level thrax. So that's the first amp arcane, Eternal Onslaught. It comes from the Zeramon. If you don't have a second amp slot open second arcane slot open on your amp, you can get that from Cavallero on the Zeramon as well. So yeah, really good arcane. It's basically made for Void Strike, but also Contamination Wave can work very well with this as well. If you don't have Eternal Onslaught, you should probably try to get it. The other one we're using is Eternal Eradicate. On operator ability cast, plus 6% damage for 8 seconds. So Contamination Wave will work great for that, as will Void Strike. These are the 2 best arcanes in my eyes for these amps. They both come from Zeramon, unfortunately. As far as the other amp arcanes, these are not really used for thrax specifically, but the Magus Melt arcane, the fire damage buff of it does work on Void Angels, and additionally, if you are using the Pod Scaffold like I am using today, that fire damage from Void Slinging works great on the Glaive Launcher for getting reses. You can actually you can res yourself from Last Gasp at level 10,000 with the Pod Scaffold. And it's relatively, I don't say it's super easy, but if they're debuffed, armor stripped, and viral proc, you can definitely kill level 10,008. You got Magus Lockdown on here for stunning Demolist in Disruption, but usually I run Magus Cloud and Void Cascade to break more Void Tears in one dash. You can also go with Magus Anomaly for, like, bounties where enemies need to be pulled into the center of a circle or something like that. As far as the exact amp parts, I did mention them earlier. Here we are with the Replock Prism, the Pod Scaffold, and the Certus Brace. I do find this to be one of the best amps in the game. Now, I wouldn't really recommend the Pod Scaffold for Eidolon hunting, actually. If you want to go for specifically Eidolon hunting, you can do the same exact amp, but instead of the Pod Scaffold, go with the Propa Scaffold instead. And that will be the Delayed Explosion. That's still the Eidolon meta from what I'm aware of. I don't really do Eidolon hunts very often. I'm mainly using this amp for Void Angels and for Void Cascade. Now, as far as the focus, we got Contamination Wave. So this is very, very important. If you want to do level 10,000 Void Cascade, listen up and get this ability unlocked. Second ability emits a Void Wave lasting 2 seconds that drench the enemy in Void Contamination, making them take more Operator Amp damage for 20 seconds. That is extremely powerful. It's very, very, very powerful, guys. Those thrax are already very vulnerable to it, so this makes it even more disgusting. And with Distilled Contamination, killing an enemy affected by Contamination Wave makes all enemies affected get even more vulnerable to Void damage. So if you hit 2 thrax your Contamination Wave and you kill one of them, that second thrax is so done for. So yeah, Contamination Wave, very nice. Void Strike is the other ability we're using here. You don't need to have it. Like, if we have Contamination Wave and all these Amp Arcanes, you can kill level 10,000 thrax without Void Strike. But yeah, Contamination Wave is really helpful, and I'd highly recommend getting it unlocked. Void Fuel also gives you some amp efficiency too. So let's get into some Steel Path gameplay here, and we can talk about some more tips and tricks with this amp. So here we are at level 10,000. I want to show you guys that it still works at level 10,000 on Void Cascade. So here's the thrax right here. That's as high as they go, and I didn't even use Void Strike, one shot. So that is kind of what you can expect. Now, as far as some other amps for Void Cascade, I've had a lot of people tell me that the 777 is what they like to use. From my experience, I don't like the 777 in Void Cascade. I find that the ammo of the Clamora Prism just drains way too quickly, and if for some reason you don't insta-kill every thrax around you, it feels like it takes a while to recharge it. So I wouldn't really recommend 777. I do have some viewers of the stream that like 547, which is the burst fire mode from the Fortuna. That one's good too. That can definitely do comparable damage, if not better, but it does require more precision, I've noticed. Because it's not going to kill him in literally one bullet, you have to kill him in like a burst. So if you don't get an entire burst on the enemy, you're not going to be having the same kind of situation. So that's more like what you can expect on like a body shot. No Contamination Wave, like 1.1, 100,000, but then you get the headshot, it's completely done for, so that's what you can kind of expect, guys. Not extremely in-depth here on the video, but yeah, definitely using Magus Melt to get some fire procs for your Pod Scaffold can be very nice for taking out trash ads, or if you have multiple thrax like flying around. The Pod Scaffold does have some light homing to it. Actually, it's a pretty aggressive homing, I take it back. It's very aggressive homing to it. There was times it will go for an enemy you're not actually aiming at, and that's kind of annoying. But usually, if the thrax is right in front of you, use the primary Replock shot. If the thrax is starting to fly away, and you can't get the headshot reliably, throw a Contamination Wave, and then throw a Glaive or a Pod Scaffold shot out after that. So, hope you guys found this video fun and helpful. A couple more things in the sim real quick. So as far as this amp, I would really recommend that you get used to going in and out of invisibility, basically. While you're invisible, you'd be waiting for the thrax to become vulnerable. So basically, kill the thrax's body. Here, let me show you what I'm talking about. Kill the thrax's body, and then go back into your frame, and just wait for the thrax to appear. That's how you can stay invincible a lot of the time. So let's go ahead and summon these guys, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'll get one thrax. Okay, so one thrax. Waiting in the void is actually a deceptively good tactic, and a lot of people don't realize if you haven't played before. So we wait for him to jump on us. Take out the physical body with my Volt and a Torrid. Okay, come on. So you'll be surrounded by enemies at this point. So knock them out. Okay, well, I wouldn't recommend the Torrid, really, for this. See, we're in the void while casting our abilities. You could just do that. You can stay in the void. Let's wait for Contamination Wave to come back. Stay in the void. You can throw out the contamination wave while invisible. This is a very good tactic right now. Our energy bar is fully drained. We should have our Eternal Onslaught, and that's a big damage buff right there, guys. So, if you need any more additional tips on Void Cascade, go check out my advanced guide from a couple months ago. Either way, I'll see you on stream later tonight. Appreciate all the support. Take it easy. Bye.